Hello and welcome to the MarineAndReef.com budget reef tank build series, where we build this budget reef tank in my office and give you guys an idea of what to consider if you're doing a budget tank. Last time we aquascaped this tank, put the rock in, we had some live rock and some dry rock, we put the sand in, and we filled everything up with water. Today we're going to discuss cycling the tank and your initial water testing, what water test you should do right from the beginning. So without further ado, we're going to go over those testing equipment. The first thing that you're going to need as far as testing on a new reef tank is some way of measuring your salinity. And for that, we're going to use the MarineAndReef.com Reef Ractometer. This is a free item.
Excuse me. It's a Reef Ractometer.
Reef Ractometer, yeah. There's two E's. We showed you guys how to use this in a previous video on mixing salt water, so we're not going to review that now, but we will say that at least once a month you should check the salinity of your tank. When you fill the tank with water that you've tested, it really shouldn't shift unless you drain out a little bit more than you put in, or put in a little more top-off water than you should. So about once a month you can just double check, make sure the salinity is right, and you guys can see how to do that in our saltwater mixing video. The next thing is going to be a thermometer. Now, in theory, if you're in a room that is below the ideal reef tank temperature of 76 to 82 degrees and you have a heater, the tank should probably be at the right temperature because the heater is going to get there. But it's always good to double check, and you really want a thermometer, especially in case the room temperature gets really hot or the seasons change, just to get an idea of what it is. We're going to use this Marine and Reef thermometer that we include. It's a free promo item we include in a lot of our packages, so it isn't going to cost you anything. And it's just going to stick to the side of the tank. I'm going to plan to put it here so it doesn't get on the viewing panel, but I can still see it from my desk very easily and make sure the temperature is not drifting out of range. After those two pieces of gear are in place, we're going to start looking at how to cycle this tank. Now you may be asking, what are you even talking about, Jaron? What's cycling the tank? Well, basically, most of what does the filtration in the tank is not the filters that we've added to the tank. It's living bacteria inside the water. So when you start out a tank, you shouldn't have any living bacteria. It should be dead unless you've added something like live rock, like we've added. So what's going to happen is when you first put your fish in, they're going to start eating and pooping and making waste, and there's no bacteria to process that waste, and that means the tank is very dirty and it can be unsafe for fish. So what we want to do is try to get some of that bacteria established so that when we put fish in this tank, it is safe, the bacteria will process the waste, and those toxic waste levels are not going to poison our fish. Now to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to start off by adding some kind of waste to the tank. In this case, the live rock we added was shipped ground because we did this on a budget, and some animals died off in the process. There was still a lot of life on it, but it wasn't all alive. So the live rock that we have does have some die off, and we're going to see that in a little bit soon. When the animals on the live rock that didn't make it in shipping died off, they're going to produce a compound called ammonia. Now, if you didn't add live rock and you did dry rock, you're going to need to add your own source of ammonia. Typically what we recommend is what's called ghost feeding, which is basically you just put some fish food in the tank, even though there's no fish, it'll rot, and that's going to produce some ammonia. It's an easy way to put some waste in the tank. Then what's going to happen is you want the bacteria to start processing that ammonia, and that ammonia is going to turn into a compound called nitrite with an I. Then the bacteria is going to start processing that, and it'll turn into a compound called nitrate with an A. And once we see all the ammonia has spiked up and gone to zero, all the nitrite is spiked up and gone to zero, we call the tank cycled. That last compound, nitrate, is what's left over, and there are some ways of getting rid of that in nature that we'll talk about in a different video. We're just going to say in most aquariums, it's hard to get rid of nitrate other than water changes. So typically once we see those levels spike up and go down, we're going to be left with some nitrate with an A. We'll do our first water change to kind of drop those levels down a little bit, and then we're going to pick out some fish. One thing to mention is we picked live rock for this tank. The live rock came from the ocean and has some living bacteria on it. If you don't use live rock, you're going to want to add some bacteria. And we're going to recommend this Microbacter Start XLM. It's specifically bacteria designed to start a tank. If you don't add this, the tank still will cycle, but it could take a month. adding products like this tend to really speed it up to get it to just a couple days or maybe even a week. So without further ado, we're going to show you guys our first water test where we're going to check the ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate levels. Now for testing this tank to see how the cycle's coming along, we're going to use the Lifeguard 6-way test strips. And it's kind of confusing because when you order them, you get a 5-way bottle and an ammonia strip bottle. So they don't come quite together. First thing I'm going to do is get the ammonia strip, just to put it in the tank for about 5 seconds. And then you're supposed to lay it down flat for 1 minute. We'll just put it on the light. Then I'm going to take the other test strip, which is the 5-way one. And this one you're supposed to swirl around twice. And this one we can read right away. So on the back of this test strip container, there's a color chart. We're just going to hold it up. Now there's a lot of things on this strip, but we're just using it for the nitrate, which is the very top, and nitrite, which is the second. And just based on this color, I were to say both of these are very low. I may be getting barely above 1 on the nitrite, which is actually good because it means we're starting to see the levels just start to increase a little bit. And now it's been about a minute, so we're going to go back to the ammonia test. And this has its own color chart, and you can see we're seeing probably just over 3 ppm of ammonia, which is in the danger level. And this is why we don't want to add fish, because if there were fish, this could burn their gills and really hurt them. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep testing the tank every couple of days. These ammonia levels should naturally drop down. The nitrite with an I level should spike up. Then those will drop down and the nitrate levels will rise up. Once that happens, the tank is cycled. Usually this takes about a week, maybe 2 weeks. And if you want to speed it up and have it take less time, adding a product like that Brightwell Start XLM will make it go even faster. Hopefully you liked what you saw today. If you do, stay tuned for more updates on this new budget reef tank build.